Good evening. It's Saturday, the 20th of September. You're tuned in to our 6 p.m. newscast coming to you from ARIRANG's news centre in Seoul. It's very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broome. And we start with the first day of action at the Incheon Asian Games. And so far, so good for South Korea. Wushu player Lee Ha-sung won the country's first gold medal earlier today, competing in the final at Ganghwa Dolmens Gymnasium. Lee scored 9.71 points in the men's changquan to snag, hopefully, the first gold medal of many. South Korea also picked up 2 silver medals in pistol shooting. Jung Jee-hae won silver in the women's 10-metre air pistol event. Jung shot 201.3 points to finish less than 1 point behind a Chinese competitor. The South Korean men's team clinched silver in the 50-metre pistol team competition. Jin Jong-oh, Lee Dae-myung and Chae Young-rae combined for 1,670 points to claim second place behind China. Now, China tops the overall medal table with 4 golds and 2 bronze. North Korea has yet to win a medal. And, in fact, we're just hearing that South Korea has won gold in the team dressage equestrian event, bringing South Korea's golds now to 2. And we'll bring you more details on that in our next newscast. The head of Korea's main opposition party is expected to meet with his ruling party counterpart as early as Monday to discuss the political stalemate over a special bill on April's ferry disaster and also the normalization of the National Assembly. Sources say the New Politics Alliance for Democracy's interim chief, Moon Hee-sang, expressed his wish to meet with ruling Saenuri Party leader Kim Moo-sung upon taking up his post on Friday. Korea's National Assembly has been completely paralysed by the prolonged political feud between the ruling and opposition parties over the special bill authorising an in-depth investigation into the government over the Seoul-ho ferry sinking. President Park Geun-hye has embarked on a week-long visit to Canada and the UN headquarters. In New York, the president will address the UN General Assembly for the first time since taking office early last year, and she will lay out her plan to restore peace and stability in Northeast Asia. She will also attend the UN Climate Summit and outline Korea's plan to tackle climate change using the so-called creative economy. In Canada, President Park will focus on bolstering economic ties on the heels of the recently concluded Korea-Canada Free Trade Agreement. This is the first time in 15 years that a Korean leader is making a state visit to Canada, and follows Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper's visit to Seoul back in March. North Korea has once again warned Seoul about allowing South Korean civic groups to fly anti-Pyongyang leaflets over the inter-Korean border. The North's main newspaper, Nodong Shinmun, said on Saturday that these leaflets that are flown into North Korea attached to large helium balloons, as you can see there, are a graver provocation than shooting and shelling. Pyongyang's second request comes a week after it sent a letter to South Korea's presidential office saying it could be forced to respond militarily if Seoul doesn't stop the spread of the leaflets. The South Korean government says it doesn't have the legal basis to stop individuals or civic groups from engaging in such activities. The leaflets are often sent in packages containing dollar bills, DVDs detailing the human rights abuses in the North, and booklets boasting the freedoms we enjoy here in South Korea. Now, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says there is a role for many countries in defeating Islamic State. Speaking at a session of the UN Security Council on Iraq, Kerry said nearly every country in the world could play its part in destroying what he called a militant cult. Park Ji-won reports.
At a special UN Security Council meeting chaired by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, a total of 37 countries, including 5 permanent members of the Council and other non-permanent members, as well as several Middle Eastern countries, adopted a statement condemning Islamic State.
In the face of this sort of evil, we have only one option: to confront it with a holistic global campaign that is committed and capable of degrading and destroying this terrorist threat.
Although Iran challenged the U.S. plan to defeat IS, the country threw its support behind the Iraqi government.
My government is ready to continue to assist the Iraqi government and other governments threatened by the ISIL.
Kerry is expected to hold bilateral talks with his Iranian counterpart on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly next week. One of the top agendas will be Tehran's role in the U.S.-led global effort against IS. The U.S. Department of Defense says it will soon begin the process of recruiting and vetting moderate Syrian rebel forces who will assume ground combat missions in the fight against the extremists. Following a 3 to 5 months vetting process, opposition forces will receive training for about a year. This after U.S. Congress adopted the $500 million training program.
And then there'll be probably a period of 8 to 12 months of actual training and fielding. So it's going to be a little while before you start to see opposition fighters returning to Syria, trained and capable and ready to take on ISIL inside Syria.
In the ongoing fight, French jets have joined the U.S. in launching airstrikes against suspected Islamic State targets in Iraq. President François Hollande says jets hit a logistics depot near the city of Mosul, which has been held by IS for months. France has promised more operations in the coming days. Meanwhile, Islamic State militants released some 50 Turkish hostages on Saturday. They had been held in northern Iraq for around 3 months. Park Ji-won, ARIRANG News.
Now, a new estimate by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows the Ebola epidemic sweeping West Africa could infect up to 550,000 people by the end of January. However, a person familiar with the report's contents says the projection assumes no additional aid by governments and relief agencies. The report is scheduled to be released officially next week, but work is ongoing and the projections could change. The US this week launched a $750 million plan to build treatment facilities in Liberia, which is the hardest hit country. The UN Security Council also voted to create an emergency medical mission to respond to the outbreak by the end of this month. The World Health Organization says the virus has infected more than 5,000 people, but officials believe those numbers vastly underreport the true number of cases. Politicians in Britain are busy figuring out the best way forward for devolving more powers across the rest of the United Kingdom following Scotland's historic vote to remain within the Union. British Prime Minister David Cameron says the referendum result will usher in a new era of constitutional reform in the UK. He says English members of Parliament should be the only ones to vote on English matters, a step that could have huge implications for the way the UK is governed. Meanwhile, Alex Salmond has announced his resignation as Scotland's First Minister after failing to achieve a yes vote in the referendum. Salmond, who has served 20 years as Scottish National Party leader, says Scotland will benefit from new leadership. Now, gone are the days when China was considered a weak rival in the tech industry. The country's manufacturers overwhelmed the competition at this year's Consumer Electronic Fair held in the German capital Berlin. Our Son Jung-in reports on what these relatively unheard of companies are bringing to the table.
Chinese companies were in the spotlight at this year's IFA exhibition for unveiling the world's first quantum dot TV, which offers the same quality picture as OLED televisions, but at 1/3 the cost. China-based TCL, the third largest manufacturer of flat-screen TVs in the world, introduced an LCD TV with quantum dot technology, as did Hisense, another Chinese firm. TCL was busy in Berlin also introducing the world's largest curved UHD TV with a 110-inch screen. Experts say China's moves show that companies there are evolving.
China is catching up quickly in terms of technology. Since they're investing even more in R&D, China and Korea may stand shoulder to shoulder in the tech industry within 5 years.
Samsung Electronics and LG were expected to release QD TVs at the exhibition. Instead, Samsung ended up promoting its curved screen TV, while LG demonstrated its own bendable OLED TV, both with higher resolutions than previous models. While local companies maintain their dominance in the global TV market, the developments at the Consumer Electronic Fair in Berlin show that Chinese companies are emerging as a worthy adversary. 손정인, 아리랑 뉴스.
Now, Korea's southern resort island of Jeju is well known around the world for its natural beauty and scenic landscapes, which makes it an ideal location for vacationers. But a growing number of Koreans are settling down on the island for good, leaving their city roots behind in search of a quieter and simpler lifestyle. Gwon-so-ah reports.
2 years ago, Im Hyo-jin and her husband left the city life behind and moved to Jeju Island. She now spends time brewing special beverages unique to the area while helping her husband with the farming. While the work can be physically demanding, Im says the positives far outweigh any negatives.
It's the perfect place for people to live a healthy life. I think I made the right choice moving here.
The number of urban dwellers moving to Jeju has increased sharply over the years. Since 2008, more than 2,400 people have made the transition. Most of them are those in their 40s and 50s, but younger people in their 30s account for 18% of those making the move. According to a survey by the Jeju Agricultural Research Services, 33% said they chose to move to the countryside in pursuit of a simpler life and their dreams, while 21% did so to live out their remaining years in peace and quiet. As to why they chose Jeju as their destination, 42% said it was because of its clean, natural surroundings, 23% said it was because it provided a good place to launch a business, and 11% said because it was their hometown. 10% of respondents said the island was recommended by acquaintances. Although parting from bustling urban life may be an appealing thought for some, experts advise that people looking to make the move thoroughly prepare ahead of time, and that the central and local governments provide support for them as they embark on their journey. Gwon-so-ah, ARIRANG News.
Okay, well, that's all we have for now. Do enjoy the rest of your Saturday, wherever you are watching us, and stay tuned to Arirang. I'll be back again for our next newscast at 10 p.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.